I'm charging my family $800 to rent a room in my house. Story: I am 100% being petty here, but curious if I am actually wrong. Most of my husband's family think I am being childish and need to let the past go, as my SIL can't afford this, but her behavior toward us in the past makes me feel this is warranted. 2 years ago, my house burnt to the ground after being struck by lightning. Thankfully, it was during the day, so our 3 kids were at school and my husband and I were at work. We lost everything, but we were safe. It took almost 11 months for the insurance to pay out. The insurance covered 1 month worth of hotel stays, but after that, we were made to fend for ourselves, and the only option we had was to move in with my SIL. She tells us we can have her spare room and her office space since she used neither of the rooms, and her stipulations was we needed to purchase all of our own food and pay her $100 a week. By week 3, all of that changed. She then decides we need to pay her $250 a week, and we can only use 1 room. So all 5 of us were crammed into the smallest room she had, which was the size of a glorified closet space and didn't even fit a twin bed and a small dresser. So we lived out of trash bags and slept on the floor. For close to $1,000 a month some months, and still had to purchase all of our own food, despite her claiming my children on her food stamps. She also had no bills outside of her land tax, $450 a year, electric and heating oil, which she hardly ever filled. So we were essentially paying her so she could do leisure activities. It was the worst 8 months of my life. 3 months ago, my grandmother decided that she wanted to go to assisted living after a fall and transferred the deed of her house to me and basically said it was mine now. It is a 5-bedroom farmhouse. My boys insist on sharing a room, so we have 2 extra bedrooms. Well, my SIL lost her house last month due to not paying her land tax for several years and asked if her and her stepdaughter could stay with us until they get enough money to move down south. I said, sure, 1 bedroom, $800 a month, and you have to buy and cook all your food separately because my daughter is vegan. She looked at me like I had 10 heads and said that she and her stepdaughter should not be made to share a room when there are 2 extra rooms, and stated she cannot afford a rent of $800 while purchasing all of her own food on top of it. I said neither could we, but we managed to cram 5 people into a glorified closet space while you were getting $1,000 in food stamps. Take it or leave it. She decided to leave. Again, I am being told I am childish. Am I the a-hole? Response 1. NTA. It's $250 for the room and $750 a month for you having to see her stupid face every day. You're giving her an 80% discount on the rent because she's family. Reply 1. Also, SIL wasn't paying her land tax while OP lived with her. She had the chance and screwed things up. Makes me think that SIL might have some kind of addiction, which makes it even better that she's not living with OP. Reply 2. Or, she deserves it. That is an addiction as well. Could also be she likes to smell her own ass. I suspect the latter, not the a-hole. Reply 3, stupid face. Unsure why this made me snort laugh for far too long, and I deeply appreciate it. Oh, you broke me up. Reply 4, if SIL failed to pay land tax whilst having a renter who she was gouging, it's more than her face that is stupid. However, that is a grand start to a deserved insult. Reply 5, Seal would have 100% ended up mooching off OP for years as well. She would just never have the money for her own place. Response 2. Wow, I was really going the other way when I read the title. But yeah, you are not the a-hole. You simply treated you SIL how she treated you. Not worse and not better. If she thinks it's unfair, then it shows she knew what she did was wrong first. Screw anybody who says you should accommodate. Best thing ever that she left. Enjoy your farmhouse. Reply 1. OP would still be treating her better. SIL's problem is of her own making, took years to create, and she could have avoided the whole thing if she used some of the rent OP gave her for taxes. OP lost everything from a fire that she had no part in making and couldn't have predicted. She had fire insurance. What else could she have done? SIL was an a-hole when OP's family had an emergency. Reply 2. Upvote. Let's be honest. OP is being petty, and she so is entitled to me. I totally don't blame her. She and her family crammed into awful living circumstances for months after an emotional disaster, had to shell out a lot of money they see. I'm sure they really didn't have or could have used to furnish their new house and do nice things for the kids who had to deal with being on top of each other for months. Yay, it was nice to have family help out in an emergency, but SIL made big bucks, possibly did food stamp fraud to boot, but helping turned into exploitation and cruelty. I don't see any reason to be any nicer to her in her time of need. She decided to leave instead of putting up with mildly tight living circumstances, so she had other alternatives, but she thought she could take advantage of OP, not the a-hole. Ignore these other people, family members, who accuse OP of being childish. OP had a right to offer what she felt like offering, and for trying to recoup some of the money SIL squeezed out of her in her time of need. Being petty sometimes is just okay. Reply 3. You know the family members are calling her the AH because they want her to take in that female dog so they don't have to. She sounds like a female-ing nightmare. Reply 4. I'm so stupid. When I first read your comment, my thought process was, oh no, don't put a poor doggy out. Screw the SIL, but save the pup. Laugh out loud. Reply 5. Most of my husband's family think I am being childish. Also, the family can take them in if they feel so generous and compassionate. Response 3. Childish and petty as hell? Oh yeah, but also not the a-hole. Tell your SIL and everyone else that you reap what you sow. In my opinion, you're being extremely generous in requesting that she pay $200 less than what you paid for one room. This is also a good one for r/petty revenge. Reply 1. I'd argue it's neither childish nor petty. People who abuse the misfortune of others for their own gain are never going to grasp the magnitude of what they've done until they've been forced to make similar choices. In this case, I'd wager the SIL still won't understand, but trying to make her understand is a reasonable, responsible thing to do. Reply 2. Yeah, it never ceases to amaze me that people like this actually exist. How do they not see the hypocrisy? It's mind-blowing. Reply 3. They somehow rationalize it in their minds that it's different when it's being done to them. I bet in this case the sister is thinking, I needed the extra money more, or she has more space than I had and she's just being greedy. They'll compare situations rather than actions to ignore the fact that the actions are exactly the same and find the smallest reason to justify their wrongdoing and demonize the other's wrongdoing, coming from someone with a mother exactly like this. Reply 4. NTA, and to be honest, not even petty. SIL established the ground rules, and OP is simply living by them. Well done, and good karma that you now have that house. Response 4. NTA. You stated that you had 5 people crammed in a room, and she managed to moan and complaint sharing one with her stepdaughter. She seems like a freeloader and shouldn't be enabled to just mooch off others and float by. Where's her husband/stepdaughter's dad? Did she not once apologize to you for the cramming you in a small room and upcharging you? $800 a month is basically the price of a room rental in most places. You are not the a-hole at all. Reply 1. Her husband is down south helping take care of his parents, and while we lived there, she claimed her husband was the one who set the rate, but he was never around to actually confirm or deny this. She never apologized. When we said we couldn't afford it, she basically said, well, I have a house to maintain too. No apology, nothing. Reply 2, which she then didn't maintain. Also, she was probably committing food stamp fraud. You do not want to be any part of that investigation. Reply 3, she was committing food stamp fraud if she was claiming OP's children and possibly even OP and her husband on her food stamps and was getting a carp ton of money for 7 extra people and not using it for them. That's fraud. Food stamps for 9 people is like $1,200 a month or more. Reply 4. Honest question. How TF does she not have enough money? Didn't she just finish scamming you off $1,000 a month? Is she just that bad with money? Reply 5. Question. How did your husband's family react when news of how she treated you before broke out? And why can't she and her daughter move in with any of them? Not the a-hole, and it sounds like you dodged a bullet. If they moved in, 1, it would be a nightmare to live with her. 2, she would never have paid you anything. And 3, you would have to go through the expense and pain of legally evicting them. Response 5. NTA. Classic double standards here. So it's okay for her to extort you when you need help in an emergency situation, but it's not okay for you to charge her that much because she lost her house because of her being unreliable? Absolutely not. While I must say it is petty, she had it coming. Screw her. Reply 1. And your husband's family, the ones telling you are petty, where were they when she was extorting you 2 years ago? And how come they aren't stepping up to house and feed her and her stepdaughter? Not the a-hole. No way, no how, and you are a hero for standing up to her. Reply 2, right? And where the female were they when Op's family was in need? OP, forget them. They don't care about you. Let them take care of your mooch. SIL. Response 6. Love it, you rock. Don't back down. You know karma is a bitch, and your SIL just got served. Tell the family they can let her live with them. Also make sure they know 5 of you lived in a bedroom and paid $1,000 a month plus food while she received food stamps for your kids. Reply 1. OP was playing a risky game. SIL might have accepted it and they would have had to live with her. However, maybe could offer to pay towards the fare for her to go down south as a conciliatory high road option if she wants to make such a thing. Reply 2. There's no way a woman who wouldn't pay $450 a year to keep a 3+ bedroom place was going to agree to pay any amount of money to stay with OP. The rent OP paid covered her land tax many times over, but she still didn't pay it. Not the a-hole. Response 7. NTA seems like what goes around comes around. She took advantage and didn't like it when it came back on her. Guess she should have saved the money she charged you so she could pay her taxes. She got $8K from you. She had plenty of money to pay taxes for many years and chose not to. That's on her. Response 8. I don't understand how some people can be so dumb. Why wouldn't she have just paid the annual land tax and kept her free housing? Response 9. NTA. I came into this fully thinking I was going to say you're the a-hole, since you started off by saying you were being petty and knew it. Laugh out loud, but nope. Not the a-hole. She really effed you and your family in your time of need. Response 10. NTA. What was she expecting after she had treated you poorly in the past? Also, you are not changing conditions out of nowhere like she did. You're informing her beforehand. Reply 1. That part. She stated one price and then changed it once they moved in. That's actually illegal in some places. I also agree that if she couldn't pay $450 a year for her land tax, she wasn't going to pay the rent. She could have borrowed it from family and paid $45 a month and been done in 10 months. Sounds like she's not good with money. Response 11. Info. If you were both working, why didn't you rent an apartment during that time? SIL is absolutely TA, but I'm wondering why 2 working adults were forced to live under those conditions for so long. Reply 1. Renting month to month or on a short-term lease can sometimes cost X to the rent of a yearly or long-term lease, or more. Since OP didn't know when her insurance would pay out, a longer lease would not have been an option. Also, no furnishings for 5 people. It would have been more expensive to rent a furnished place or a waste to buy cheap furniture they might use for only a couple of months and then throw away. If her insurance had told her it was going to take nearly a year, I'm sure she would have found a better alternative than SIL house. Reply 2. I'm not OP, but I'm assuming they had no idea how long this process was going to take. Like their insurance covered 1 month of hotel, and they were probably unsure if they had to wait 3 months or a year, etc., and wanted to avoid a rental lease. Just a possible idea why. Reply 3. They may not have been able to find a place that would rent to them for a price they could afford, even with 2 people working. Most places require they rent at least 2 bedrooms for 2 adults and 3 children. They would have needed a short-term, a month-to-month rental, which are more expensive than long-term rentals because of the issues with insurance and not knowing when they'd get the coverage paid and construction completed or a new residence purchased. Response 12. NTA, if it was good enough for you, why not her? She decided to be a gigantic AH when you needed help, and now the shoe is on the other foot. Response 13. NTA, treat others the way you want to be treated. is an old saying your SIL should have followed. Apparently, she wants others to treat her better than she is willing to do. Response 14. NTA, this was perfectly petty. You absolutely delivered on this one. In light of your history with SIL, what you offered was extremely fair. If your husband's family think you are being childish, then they can feel free to open up their homes to her and her stepdaughter. Response 15. Wow. Just wow. She really used your misfortune to max out her advantage, huh? I would have cut that witch out of my life immediately. Her gall to even ask you, not the a-hole, but how could you afford $1,000 a month plus food for 5 people, but not afford to move out of her house, at least into a 1-bedroom apartment or something? Anywhere would have been better, I imagine. Reply 1. The money they were paying to the SIL probably hindered them significantly in regards to saving for a deposit on a place to buy or rent. They also have 3 kids, and every single person in that family unit was left with literally nothing, and clothing and other necessities had to be replaced for all of them, on top of keeping everyone fed. The insurance took almost a year to pay out for the fire. They didn't have the lump sum from that to put towards a different place to live. SIL definitely took advantage of them to an insane degree in their time of need and just compounded the harm to the family. God only knows where the money she demanded went if she hadn't paid her property taxes in so long it was foreclosed on. Demanding that she needs a place to stay from the people she shook down in their time of need, only to not use the exorbitant rent to pay the one thing she had to pay for housing expenses at all, is gross and entitled enough on its own. The gall she has to demand 2 bedrooms for 2 people while not wanting to pay anything after giving 1 room to the same 7 family members she wants to stay with after she made them pay way more than was appropriate is mind-blowing. I work at a firm that essentially only does work on foreclosures and evictions for our clients, in addition to previous years working at a title company. And I haven't seen many cases where tax and HOA/condo liens even get to the point of foreclosure proceedings beginning, let alone going all the way through. And there are so many documents that get mailed out to defendants at different stages of foreclosure proceedings. So the level of stupidity SIL has attained is pretty off the charts. Not to mention her complete lack of any ethics with not paying the taxes when she had the funds and the carp she pulled on OP's family to obtain those funds. Sorry for the tangent, because this really got away from me. Just wanting to say that the SIL was probably at least part of what was preventing them from getting a new place sooner. I'm just so disgusted by this, and got more disgusted the longer I thought about it. Edited to add, I was so heated that I didn't even remember you also used the word gall about the SIL. But great minds think about similar vocabulary? That's how it goes, right? Edited to add too, you/Waterfall Blue pointed out that they only have 3 kids, which is appreciated. Still doesn't make it any better on SIL's part. Reply 2. But how could you afford $1,000 a month plus food for 5 people, but not afford to move out of her house, at least into a 1-bedroom apartment or something? Anywhere would have been better, I imagine. Or better still, why didn't Grandma open up her 5-bedroom house then, although she perhaps didn't want 3 kids living with her? But still, what a family that noon else helped out. Response 16. NTA. I wouldn't even offer to rent to her, not gonna lie. F that carp. I couldn't care less about petty and anyone saying otherwise. Tell them to house her. She stuffed all of you in 1 room, so clearly doesn't see a problem with that. Wow, just effing wow. I've helped strangers more than your SIL did for you, just effing wow. She took advantage of you and bummed you whilst everyone watched. Where was all these concerns from everyone when your house burnt down? She didn't pay her effing bills. There's a damn difference. F her. Reply 1. Yeah, this wasn't an effing unforeseeable event. Do you know how long and behind on your taxes you need to be to get to tax sale and then to actually have the home foreclosed on, with the SIL's rights and interest in the property being terminated? And how many notices she got without doing anything? The answers are pretty long, and more notices throughout the process than I could count. I rarely feel this way about people being foreclosed on, even with my job. But she deserved to lose her house for this. She had enough money from fleecing OP's family to pay something like 16 years worth of those taxes. And if she were that far behind, the foreclosure would have happened sooner. As the taxes became delinquent, those years would cost more later on to rectify, but there's no way that she didn't get enough to cover several years of back taxes, with only 4 or 5 months of the rent she was taking. I feel fully comfortable saying that the SIL is a malicious and just generally bad person, even though this is only a snippet. There just isn't any other viable explanation for this behavior. Response 7, NTA. Yes, it may be petty, but it is justified, especially since your SIL was using your kids to commit fraud with the food stamps. Your SIL just discovered that karma is a force that has more teeth than she has ass. Or as someone else put it, treat people well on the way up because that is how you will be treated on the way down. Response 8TA. I'd do the same, but also made me wonder, why didn't you live with your grandma in the first place? Reply 1, bingo. Why I went with ESH, because grandma basically passively watched this occur while living in her luxury mansion with 4 spare rooms while her granddaughter went through hell. Response 19 NTA. What goes around comes around. Will sis learn this? Unlikely, but you should offer the lesson just the same. Response 20. Why did you stay there in the first place? For that kind of money, you could surely have found a place of your own.